Episode 9, Malacca and the Spread of Islam, Crossroads of the World. In our previous episodes, we journeyed through the great empires shaped by the Hindu and Buddhist faiths. From the majestic stone towers of Angkor and the brick stupas of Pagan, to the wonder of Borobudur on the island of Java. But in the early 15th century, a new faith, a monotheistic religion from the deserts of Arabia, began its own journey of conquest, not with swords, but with merchant ships. This is the story of the miraculous rise of a small fishing village that grew to become one of the wealthiest and most important seaports in the world. A city where merchants from Venice, Cairo, Gujarat, Bengal, Java, and China all sought their fortunes. This is also the story of how Islam spread throughout island Southeast Asia, forever changing the religious and cultural face of an entire region. Welcome back to the History of Southeast Asia series. In Episode 9, we will explore the story of the Malacca Sultanate and the Islamic Revolution. Part 1. A Fugitive's Beginning, Parameswara and the Founding of Malacca, circa 1400. Our story begins in the ashes of the old empires. At the end of the 14th century, Palembang in Sumatra, the former capital of the mighty Srivijayan Maritime Empire, was now just a weak vassal state under the thumb of the Majapahit Empire on Java. Our central character is Parameswara, a prince of Palembang. According to the chronicles, wishing to regain independence, Parameswara rebelled against Majapahit, but failed and was forced to flee his homeland. His escape was an arduous journey. First, he went to Temasek, modern-day Singapore, which was then a vassal of the Siamese kingdom of Ayutthaya. There, Parameswara killed the local chief and installed himself as ruler. But his power did not last. A few years later, a Siamese fleet attacked in retaliation, and Parameswara had to flee once again, heading north along the west coast of the Malay Peninsula. After years of searching, around the year 1400, Parameswara and his followers arrived at a river mouth with a perfect strategic location. It was a natural deep-water harbor, sheltered from the monsoons by the island of Sumatra, and situated at the narrowest point of the Strait of Malacca, a place all passing ships had to navigate. Legend has it that while resting under a tree, he witnessed a tiny, brave mouse deer kick one of his hunting dogs. Seeing this as a good omen, a sign that the weak could defeat the strong, Parameswara decided to establish his new settlement there, naming it after the tree he sat under, the Malacca tree. From a fishing village of the Orang Lot, Sea People, Malacca was born. Part 2. Protection from the Celestial Empire, Malacca and the fleets of Zheng He. The fledgling kingdom of Malacca faced a constant existential threat. To the north was the powerful Siamese kingdom of Ayutthaya, which always considered Malacca a rebellious vassal. To the south was the Majapahit Empire of Java, Parameswara's old enemy. Caught between these two great powers, Parameswara knew he needed a mightier protector. And so he looked north, towards Ming Dynasty China. This was a brilliant diplomatic move. In the early 15th century, the Yongle Emperor was pursuing an expansionist foreign policy, symbolized by the great voyages of the eunuch Admiral Zheng He. China wanted to establish a system of tributary states and control the trade routes. Seizing the opportunity, Parameswara sent envoys to China to pay tribute and seek investiture. In 1405, the first Malaccan mission arrived in Nanjing. The Ming Emperor recognized Parameswara as the king of Malacca and granted him a seal, robes of office, and a promise of protection. This meant that any attack by Siam on Malacca would now be considered an act of aggression against the Celestial Empire itself. In the following years, Zheng He's massive treasure fleet, with hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of soldiers, visited Malacca multiple times during its voyages between 1405 and 1433. The presence of the Chinese fleet in Malacca was not just a security guarantee. It also turned the port into a major logistical and commercial hub. Merchants from all over began to flock to Malacca, knowing it was a safe haven protected by the Ming dynasty. It was thanks to this strategic patronage that Malacca was able to survive and miraculously thrive in its first decades, free from the threat of its powerful neighbors. Part 3. The Dream of the Prophet, Malacca's conversion to Islam. Along with its commercial growth, an even more profound change was taking place, a change that would shape the identity of Malacca and the entire Malay world. This was the arrival of Islam. Islam was not a new religion to the region. For centuries, Muslim merchants from Gujarat in India, from Persia, and from Arabia had sailed to Southeast Asia. They had established small communities in port cities like Pasai in northern Sumatra. But Islam only began to spread with great force when it captured the greatest center of power and trade, Malacca. The Sejarah Malayu, the Malay Annals, tells the legendary story of this conversion. One night, the king of Malacca dreamt of the Prophet Muhammad himself, who appeared to him and taught him the Shahadah, the Muslim profession of faith. The next morning, a ship from Jeddah arrived, carrying an Islamic scholar. The scholar further explained the new faith, and the king and his entire court decided to convert to Islam. Historically, this process was likely more gradual. The first ruler to convert was probably Meghad Iskandar Shah, Parameswara's son, around the year 1414. Another theory suggests that Parameswara himself converted late in life. Regardless of how it happened, this decision was an incredibly astute political and economic move. By becoming an Islamic kingdom, a sultanate, Malacca placed itself within a global Islamic trade network that stretched from the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean. This attracted a huge number of wealthy Muslim merchants to its port, turning Malacca into a formidable competitor to the Hindu ports of the Majapahit Empire. Furthermore, it created a distinct identity, an ideology to counterbalance the Buddhist kingdoms like Ayutthaya. From a small kingdom, Malacca had now become an Islamic center, a beacon of the new faith, ready to spread its influence across the archipelago. Part 4. The Center of the World, the Golden Age of the Malacca Sultanate. From the mid to late 15th century, Malacca entered its golden age, especially under the rule of Sultan Mansur Shah and the guidance of the legendary Bendahara Prime Minister Tun Perak. Malacca had become a global superport, the Venice of the East. Later Portuguese travelers described a bustling city where over 80 languages were spoken. To manage such a multicultural society, the Malaccan court established an exceptionally efficient administration. The port was managed by 4 shibandars, harbor masters, one for the merchants from Gujarat, one for merchants from southern India, Bengal, and Burma, one for merchants from Java, the Moluccas, and the rest of the archipelago, and one for merchants from China and Indochina. Fairness and security were guaranteed. The laws of Malacca, recorded in codes like the Undang-Undang Malacca, clearly defined trade rules and punishments, creating a reliable business environment. The Malay language, Bahasa Melayu, with its simplicity and flexibility, became the lingua franca of the entire region, used by merchants from every nation to conduct business. Goods from all corners of the world converged here. Cloves and nutmeg from the Maluku Islands, the Moluccas, textiles from India, silk and porcelain from China, rice from Java, and gold from Sumatra. Malacca was not just the center of trade, it was the center for the propagation of Islam. Scholars, theologians, and Sufi missionaries came to Malacca. From here, the Islamic faith followed the trade routes to other port cities across the archipelago, to Java, Borneo, and further east. The rulers of other states, seeing the political and economic benefits, gradually converted, following Malacca's example. The Golden Age of Malacca was the most dynamic period of Islamization in island Southeast Asia. Part 5. Twilight of the Golden Empire and the Strange Sails from the West. After the glorious era under the leadership of Bendahara Tun Perak, the Sultanate of Malacca began to face internal problems. Power struggles within the royal family and the weakness of succeeding sultans undermined the unity and effectiveness of the state. Extreme wealth also led to luxury and decadence. While Malacca was dealing with its internal issues, a completely new threat, a power never before seen, appeared from the other side of the world. They were the Europeans. Driven by the 3 great motives of gold, God, and glory, the Portuguese, after having rounded Africa, were seeking a direct route to the legendary Spice Islands to break the trade monopoly of Muslim merchants and the Venetian Republic. And they knew that the key to controlling the spice trade was to capture its center, Malacca. In 1509, the first Portuguese fleet, under the command of Diogo Lopes de Sequeira, arrived in Malacca. Initially, they came as trading partners, but suspicion and cultural clashes quickly erupted, leading to a Malay attack on the Portuguese fleet. Sequeira was forced to retreat, but several of his men were captured and taken prisoner. The event of 1509 was a warning, a harbinger of the end of an era. The Sultanate of Malacca, the commercial and religious heart of a region, was now about to face an enemy with superior military technology, with cannons and warships designed for conquest. The twilight of the Golden Empire had arrived, and a new, violent, and tumultuous chapter of colonialism was about to begin. The story of Malacca is one of the most miraculous in history. From a tiny fishing village founded by a fugitive prince, it rose to become a global commercial empire and the torchbearer of Islam in the region. Its fall at the hands of the Portuguese would open a new era, an era of confrontation between East and West in the seas of Southeast Asia. History has so many more stories to tell. To make sure you don't miss a single one, take action now. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. Join us as we uncover the hidden corners of the past. See you next time.